start recording. Okay. All right. So this audio is fixed. Had some people come in and see what's going on here. It should be live. Let's see if anybody joins. Yeah, let's see if I anybody in here. Hello, how's it going? Mm. So I'm kind of torn whenever I go live. I'm never sure if I should just like film the episode or wait and see if someone comes in. Maybe I should just do the episode. You know what? Yeah, let's just do the episode. I'll chop it, and if someone comes in, then I guess we'll deal with that later, and maybe have to redo the episode or something like that. But that's a okay. That's a okay. And sorry, I was just Greg for myself. I don't flip this off just to make sure that the audio is okay. And somebody messaged me. But- Oh wow, yeah. Do we know any of those people? All right. Sorry. Update. Okay. Right. So as always, if anybody joins in the chat, it might derail my initial like conversation or idea for a talk here, but still trying this out. I just need to build episodes for the channel. But I figured if I do it on Twitch here and I get some people in, that's cool. Now my audio, if you see me here, just I am kind of just kind of fulfilling all my wishes to record different things, right? So I'm going to post videos about job hunting as well, and I'd really like to get to a point where I'm helping people find jobs like live in videos and helping people fix their resumes, updating resume tips, and then like chop those videos up and post them on YouTube. Just still not sure where to what to do with really talking through these things um, and how this is going to work. But anyway, as long as I get my thoughts out there, that's fine. I think even in the future, maybe someone sees these and it really helps them a lot. But really, another thing about life, which is like, I guess I'll try to impart some wisdom, if you can count anything I'd say, is that it would be that sometimes you have to get things out, right? Like write a book, right? Like get some things out in the right medium there, um, and just get it out to the world, right? Make sure things are good. So anyway, my last video was about job interview prep, and I know here the next video is like jumping way over to some kind of like somewhat conspiratorial talk, right? But before I even get started on that, I will jump back to job stuff, and I think I might even film it tonight right after this because I really want to keep that going and build up those episodes. And then as I get better with the software, I might get a fancy background. I don't know. This is just like my normal workspace where my kids have drawn on my makeshift whiteboard and everything. But here we go. Okay, so uh, welcome to job hunting, and I'm here. This is actually live on Twitch just to see if somebody comes in. It's in the just chatting area. I kind of want to go live anyway. I kind of explained it a little bit before, but just try to build the channel up. Anyway, what we're talking about today is knowledge, and really it's about what you know. Okay, and so some people we don't think that deeply about this stuff, and I'm older, and I think that that's part of your life where you start to actually understand that you don't know that many things that you thought you knew. And you might say, okay, well, duh, of course I learned more, but no, like you don't understand. Like, so the understanding is that like when you were younger, someone told you something. Okay, and I'll have examples. I just don't want to use them yet, right? Let's get this out of the way. So someone tells you something, but let's say they're like, um, yeah, maybe it's some kid on the playground and he's like 3 years older than you, and he tells you like, hey, 5 times 2 is 20 is 52. And then you're like, oh, and you've learned that. Now, that's the same level of knowing that you realize when you get older you have about most things. And there are things like as a professional, so like, not like let's get out of that example of being a kid, right? Because like later that kid will find out, they'll go to like school and they'll find out that math is one of the only things that's real. Okay, like math is like absolutely, you could argue that you don't need to know, there is nothing unknown by knowing math, right? It's not like somebody could really trick you as long as you knew how to do the math. Now, once you start getting to like physics, I took a lot of physics courses more recently too, as tutoring some people with physics. And there's parts of physics calculations that you actually have to have like a study guide to help you get through, right? Because it's like find the newtons of force, of resistance of the piston as it spins on a ladle. Like there's all these things, and then you're like, okay, what's the force of this? They're like, well, what's the material made out of? And you got to go to this book, find the number of the material, and then that will make your equation correct, right? And so those things you can never really know. Like I don't know if that number in the book is for aluminum. Like I don't know that. I don't know what the number is for iron. I mean, they could just tell me whatever it is, and then because then to me the math is pointless at that point because they've given me this equation when they say, hey, solve this equation. Well, I'm not solving anything. I'm typing it into a calculator. And then you give me a variable that's x, and then x equals, go look the number up. And then I'm like, oh, when I'm like, so what's even the practice of doing that assignment? What is the point of doing that assignment at all? Anyway, but one good thing, anyway, not to knock physics completely, because most of the physics problems were word problems, and that's the major part of it. It wasn't the work was calculator stuff, right? But it was mainly like comprehension, right? So I think that's good. That's good. It's just, but expecting people to memorize equations like that are just, that's asinine. It's a little ridiculous. But anyway, there's things you can know, and there's things that are unknown. It's very hard to figure this out. But I did think of an example. I've been thinking of it for a long time of like setting it up of how you would understand what I'm trying to get at, right? And then from there, it's fine. Once I give that example, I would love to be critiqued on it. I would love for somebody to maybe throw out some questions or things. Anyway, let's look at this. Here, sorry, up here, right? Everybody's probably heard of the you own nothing and you'll be happy. Okay, so the reason why I took that picture because that was the World Economic Forum thing, trying to say that in the future you're just gonna rent things, like you'll never own anything. It's like you need to get to work, you'll always Uber. If you need a hammer, why would you buy a hammer for $7? Go rent one for 10 cents, right? Whatever. But the problem with that kind of future, well, I can just add here, there's a lot of problems with that kind of future. You definitely don't want to, not owning things means you don't have the right to things, and not having the right to things means you can't use them whenever you want. That's the problem. And so people bring up examples of like, you want to rent a bicycle. Hey, I want to rent a bicycle because you can't own it anymore. So they'll have like some factory or something that'll own it, or maybe some rich guy will own like 100 bikes. And they'll say, hey, I want to rent a bike for a day. Oh, I'm out of bikes. And then you're like, oh, okay. Well, when will you get a bike? And they'll be back in next week. So I can't bike till next week. It's you just like cycle through these examples, right? And then like, what if that person, like every other shitty business owner, isn't updating their fleet, right? Or they don't take care of it. So now you've got a bunch of bikes that are just aging out, causing accidents. And then what is the regulation on that? Who's following through with the regulation? And hey, if you get injured on a bike while going downhill off the countryside, did you rent the cell phone to call for help in advance? Did you rent the backpack to survive with the kit in it? Is there a car for rent for them to come and pick you up? A helicopter to rent, come pick you? I mean, these are like the questions where, I mean, a helicopter a little far, right? But anyway, you just get facetious about it. You start pushing the boundaries and going, okay, human nature is a crazy thing. And we really got to be careful where we go with any technology or any decisions we make. And then who would even tell you that? Like, would you own a car and then like from then on not be able to buy a car anymore? So anyway, there's a lot of barriers for this thing to be, sorry, this thing to be true. Um, and I think it would take a long time for that to happen anyway. Doesn't mean it's not. Okay. Doesn't mean it wouldn't happen. And when I conspiracy theorists have been wrong. It's 2023 right now, by the way. If you're watching this video some other time, it's mid 2023. And in my lifetime, conspiracy theorists, and in more recent time, mainly, have been proven correct on like 90 something percent of the conspiracy theories. Um, and I think really what it is that when someone tells you they're going to do something, listen to them. Like that's it, right? People say don't judge a book by its cover. Well, that's fine, 'cause that's a visual thing, right? But, but it's like if you see a wolf around a bunch of sheep, you can infer that something's going to happen, right? You see lions around a bunch of little children in Africa or something. You're like, oh shit, something could happen here, right? So you get worried, right, about these things, and that's natural because that's a smart thing to do is to think about the future possibilities and then fight against it. So I use that because geez, I can write this here because really I think they've already attacked us in the last couple of years, okay, with knowledge. Um, and it really people feel there's all these apparatuses around us, okay, and there's this thing that okay, I've mentioned him before already in my first couple videos. I'm not riding on this dude hard, but Jay Dyer talks really a lot about philosophy, and then he goes to the like a Orthodox Christian kind of view of it, right? But he's very, very smart about it. And, I'd love to talk to him one day about it, but it's like we agree. So it would probably be that great of a conversation, right? 'Cause it's not like we'd argue back and forth, but it's like there's a worldview that you have, okay? So like sometimes people can't even see beyond their worldview. And what I think is going on in the world today, and I don't know when it started. It just felt like the world was normal when I was younger, right? But I'm sure every old person says that, older person. But like there's a time where things seemed like they were going like a certain pace, right? And then it's like, you know, day one, day two, day three, day four, and you're just moving through life. You got a cadence, you got a rhythm. And then all of a sudden, it started getting crazy. And then it just, oh my God, time passing super fast. Um, Sometimes time slowing really slow for like a week or something, and everybody says it. And it's these things that are like, you're going to be like, well, Greg, you're thinking like spiritually, but I'm like, I think there is some magical like energy thing about the world. I don't really want to get into all that stuff. It's just that like there's like synchronicities that happen, and I think we're just more important and than most of us realize, right? People think, we're just another human, you're another number. I'm like, yeah, but we are on the only planet that has life, right? I mean, like, is that not rare enough? What are the chances it happens? I mean, we argue about Big Bang or was it God or whatever. But then it's like just look at this in front of you, right? The people in front of you. The fact that you like our bodies are like literally machines, right? And you put something bad in the machine and it breaks, and you put something good in the machine and it works better. Right? Like these very simple processes we use and the things that we take care of. So anyway, um, we're walking miracles all the time, right? So anyway, I have a huge appreciation for life. Although there are, bad people, good people, whatever. But anyway, so the you'll know nothing and you'll be happy. So again, let me take this back then. So people believe today that the things that they've learned are things that they know. And I think we have to really differentiate the fact that like you don't know these things for sure. Like you literally have no idea that these facts are right. Okay. The more outside of your circle, let's say if you believe in like the torus field kind of thing, right? The energies in your body, we all have these fields, and in fact, it's very true science, which you might not know that they've been finding out. If you go look it up, your heart is creating this field around you. Okay. And it's kind of like it makes sense, right? People that are really charismatic, when you get around them and you feel energized by their energy. Now, is it just the fact that they're like, haha, hey, smiling? or is it more? Is it more to it? I don't know. Anyway, what's weird is that they don't spend a lot of money studying this stuff. And that's why I think it's more, it kind of proves it's more real than not because when we perceive things, right? It's like when you're a kid and you look around your world, whoa, everything's magical and animals, birds flying by, but you don't know what these things are, right? And I've heard this from someone else, exactly these examples, right? So I am borrowing, I just don't remember for who exactly, but they put you in the box, right? So we used to do this at work, right? Someone understands something, he's called put them in the box. Um, but basically, it's like a kid, kid sees an ant, go pick up another bug. You're like, oh, it's so magical. And you walk by, you go, oh, that's an ant, and it lives in the ground, and there's millions of them, so just go ahead and step on it and kill it. Doesn't matter, right? Yeah, but you start giving them definitions, and so you have this magical world, and then you start bringing it down and bringing it down. You try to collapse it over the person, right? And then, so what I'm saying is that you only know the firsthand knowledge that you've experienced. Okay, so that I'm trying to keep myself balanced, guys. I'm sorry if I'm way off. I'd love somebody to be in the chat with me. So maybe I'll do this on like a weekend. I can bring some buddies in or something. But um, it's like you only know what's in front of you and what you have experienced personally yourself. That's true knowledge. That's absolute knowledge. Okay, and anything outside of you, the further out you go, the less knowledge you know. Right? How can I prove this idea or whatever, right? It's like, okay, I'm looking at this Starbucks cup, okay, right? It's fancy. Sorry, note. I know I'm not rooting for these guys, whatever. It's got a design on it, and I know what that stands for. Pumpkin spice latte, right? So it's almost that time. Anyway, I know this cup is real. I can shake the cup. I can move the cup. Alternative to that is I watch a commercial on TV and they show cups for sale and every cup has a different design. Those cups, I don't even know if they're real or not, right? Because they could just be representations. And I know that might be a weak example, but how about this? They say this cup is from Morocco, limited edition. Okay. And then people buy it because of that, right? So I don't truly know where this cup was made. I truly don't know where it was sold. It was given as a gift. So, I mean, honestly, like my knowledge of like actually knowing anything about this cup is just what I know in front of me, right? And that's what I'm saying to you. So you can be fooled by people, um, and really we start getting the logical fallacies, right? And these are huge. And I was going to start doing like episodes on logical fallacies. I looked it up. I found a couple cool ones on YouTube, but again, like people like Jay Dyer who debate a lot, they talk about logical fallacies, of course, huge on Twitch. There's Destiny, um, and he talks about logical fallacies. I think he's a really good debater in most cases, except I don't really always agree with what he says for sure. But anyway, it's really good because once you understand these logical fallacies, you understand the real way your world works around you and how you can be fooled. You can literally be fooled all the time by anybody. So who who tells you where this cup is from? Who told me it was from Morocco? Okay, a person who read an article or something about it. The company themselves, right? So can I trust this company? Let's go to that. Can I trust this company that that's exactly where this cup was from, right? Yeah, no, I can't, right? Because they're trying to make a lot of money. What if it costs $80 to make this cup in Morocco and they sell it for $10? Yeah, right. Okay, they're making it in China, which it actually, I think it says on the label where the plastic is from, right? They might sell it in whatever. But that's the thing. That's the idea here that I'm getting at. And then you will debate. It's the problem. People will be told something. They will know something or believe that they know something, and then they will fight about it. They'll go to jail for it. They'll go to war for it. They'll lie for it. They'll steal for it. They'll do anything for it. I would say kill for it, but basically, yeah, you do anything for it. Okay, because once you're told a lie from somebody you believe is telling you the truth, then you believe that it's actual knowledge. So um, this also gets into like flat Earth. Okay, that's why I call this like I put these tags on here that this is like conspiracy chat as well. It's like I gotta no because when people in the flat Earth community poking holes in the NASA story. That's basically what they're doing. They're being told, hey, um, this thing is A. Okay. And then they watch another video where they say, well, this thing is A. And you go, oh, well, you told me two truths that don't add up. Okay. They can't both be A, right? What do you mean? And I remember there's a kid, and if you look it up, there's a kid who's like, he's really into, and this is how it works. This is how you break through knowledge, which I think is why you have to be like older initially, unless somebody like you're watching like this video or you watch somebody that really gets into it, or go watch Jay Dyer, go watch some of those guys, and you're gonna get into the point where you start asking questions about things you really like. That's the problem that the enemy faces. Because you start asking questions. I remember there's a video of a kid who he went out, and I just saw that time, and he went out to look up satellites because he's super in love with satellites. So he's doing a school report on satellites, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to NASA's website or whatever, and Boeing and whoever makes satellites, right?" He's looking them up, and it's like, "What are satellites made of?" And it's like, major component aluminum, major component this, major component that. It's got literally the whole diagram broken out because they don't. Who else is building these satellites, right? So it shows it. It's like all broken out. The fin, it shows you what the fins are made of, or supposedly, right? Supposedly, because again, you don't know this information, right? So don't go to war and don't die on a hill that these diagrams are 100% correct, right? And even in my world of business, that I'm like the business world, that I would even talk people to help them get jobs in and stuff. It's like there can be documents that people assume are updated and they haven't been updated in 8 months, right? But people will pencil whip a date or what. Anyway, it just gets so convoluted, like the whole thing of being like, what do you actually know? So anyway, I'll continue. This kid, he looks at the satellites and he's like, cool, I know what they're made of now. Okay, where do they put the satellites at? And then he looked up because we have like the different levels of the atmosphere, right? And it gets like colder and there's more pressure, and there's actually a part where it's hot, like really hot, and then anyway, they're just like different pressures, but this is all according to NASA and them. And he's like, where do you put the satellites at? And he was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. This report says you put these specific satellites in this realm. And so he says the certain height they put them at, and that certain height um, is like hotter, like like 10 times hotter than the melting point of aluminum, right? So he's like, so how do your satellites survive infinitely, right? Because they're not temporary, right? They're supposedly permanent. So he's like, how do they survive infinitely, where the temperature and the pressure creates a constant furnace that should be melting them immediately when they get up there, right? And so this is a big problem, right? This is something they have to answer for. I have never heard an answer for it, and you know why? Because nobody actually knows a whole lot about satellites. They really don't. That's what I mean about the knowledge. Like, do you know about satellites? And like, eh. And so you see people really kind of back away from that one. And even when you get a science person to come out, and you'll see it in my example that I have loaded up and ready to talk about that has to do with this knowledge thing in general, just another proof to you that you don't know Jack. Okay, and it's very personal to people because it's very elementary. But anyway, we'll get to it. But this is one of those things where even when you go up against some super science nerd, he's going to go in and then he just reads about it, right? He's like, well, in 1957, they put this satellite. I mean, they just literally regurgitate what they're told by the people that benefit the most from lying that it even happens in the first place, right? So you get where, even conspiracy aside, nobody really knows how all this is really going on. Okay, these companies might do, and it might be real, and they might say, well, we don't owe you an explanation, but most conspiracies are based off a lack of information. It's just how it is. So if you don't know about, the more you don't know about something, that's why when the government, some kind of bang bang happens somewhere, and the government immediately cuts everything off, shuts off the social media, deletes all the Twitter feeds, like, and you're like, okay, well now it seems suspicious, right? Like you've made it suspicious, okay? You've made it a conspiracy theory, flat out. And then when they like overly attack people on things, or when they overly real into things like climate change stuff that's going on right now, it's like, hey, um, everybody's banging for it. Like when you have Republicans, Democrats, everybody, but you get all these people attacking a certain thing, and they think paying more taxes would increase it, and it just it doesn't add up. And then when you ask a lot of deep questions, they call you a conspiracy theorist anyway. So welcome to the club. You're part of it. Um, so yeah. So the satellite thing was a huge one. I think you can still find it on YouTube. It's just some kid giving a presentation in his high school or whatever. So it's not like he went to court and tried to sue them for false information. Anyway, so this is one of the problems we have, right? So I think knowledge is attacked, and and if I have to stand by that, before I give you my example, let's just say that like the reason why I'm saying it hurts you, okay? Because to be attacked, it must hurt. And then what's the point of it? Well, the point of it, I think, is to downgrade society, right? You're told a bunch of things by a bunch of people, um, that the logical fallacy that they're using against you is appeal to authority, or appeal to consensus. That's another one. Appeal to emotion, they use that a lot, but I don't know if that's really knowing. Maybe it's a lack of knowledge that could lead to that, but really it's the authority and the consensus, right? So they'll throw things out to people and be like, this happens with this. And then everybody goes, gotcha. But I've been alive long enough to see literally every couple months a different report come out that say a different thing caused cancer, right? So it was like orange juice causes cancer, coffee causes cancer, this causes cancer, and it just kept coming out over and over. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Does everything cause cancer, or is it just these things? And is it or each time one of these things comes out in a new study, that's the leading thing that causes the most cancer, right? And you start to really understand because then the problem is you start digging into it and you say, okay, who did the study, right? So you look up these studies, these super long studies, and you find out they only studied on 6 people or something, and you're like, what? And it was a questionnaire, and they only did it in Idaho, and and you're like, okay, okay. You're like, this isn't official whatsoever. Oh, and it was also paid for by the orange juice company. So now they chose coffee this time to be the cancer thing to get the focus off the orange juice. I mean, it's just so like ridiculous and insanity. But remember, they used to say cigarettes were awesome and healthy for you when cigarettes first came out, right? There's all kinds of there was a cigarette ad that someone pointed out a while ago, and I saw on Twitter, and I know I saved the screenshot, but it's on my phone. Sorry, it'd be hard to real quick share it. But they put asbestos inside cigarettes. Um, and I forgot when, but they were like, "Oh, it'll help absorb the smoke or something." And it's just like, oh, face palm, right? But that's what I'm saying. Knowledge, true knowing. You don't know that. Them at the time, they didn't know that. But if you believe what they said, you were just boom, puffing that cancer right into your heart, just destroying your body. And you believed because they told you. So then you just have to be careful, okay? And because then you're going to ask, well, Greg, who do I trust? Who, who do I accept knowledge from? I say, hey, I'm really my message would be that it's your life, and you need to make the best of it. You need to work hard. You need to be smart about things. Um, and you need to just really kind of like accept the reality you live in, and then strive to change it for the better as much as you can, right? And that should cover most bases with most people's like things what you're going through. But the problem is that you know you sometimes this worldview part. Let's get back to that. If your worldview is uh, that okay, let's take it from a young black kid's perspective. If your worldview is that you're beaten down and destroyed by society, the only thing you're good for is playing basketball or football, and when you see black people on TV, it's always women, and they're going to college, and if it's a man, um, he's rich or something, right? The only black men you see that are rich. But this is the problem, and I know I'm touching on something I could debate, which somebody came on, but it's like, if you're beat down and that's your mentality, that becomes your worldview, and then that's how you react with the world. But the other problem with that is that when the truth comes in, or some kind of um, outside influence that might help you tries to come into that worldview, that like bubble, you're gonna not even see it. You're gonna completely reject it. It's not even in your purview. You don't like, um, yeah, it's just not real to you. It just doesn't exist. And so I found a lot of people with conspiracy stuff too. It's like, they'll defend the government, like in a weird way, where I'm like, why are you defending the government? Like, you just told me you hated the taxes going up. Like, we'll have these arguments about something here where they'll be like, oh, I don't know. They'll just be like, oh my God, the economy is so bad. Oh, the gas is so expensive, blah, blah, blah. So this. And then I tell them a conspiracy theory that kind of ties into that stuff. Like, oh yeah, well, I heard this. And, they really want us to not own anything and we'll be happy. And they want us to rent cars instead of buying one because then you don't have to pay gas and blah, blah. And they'll be like, well, that's stupid. That doesn't make sense. I'm like, okay, you don't see the dots here? Like, okay. I'm like, that's fine, but that tells me that your worldview is different than mine. And I think it's kind of in a shrouded way. Um, and it's okay. Sometimes you gotta be protective, but the problem is like, where did you get your knowledge from? Because like I'm using my sense data like around me, like when people are talking about you behind your back. You know, when someone's hurting while they're talking to you, even like, oh yeah, you okay? You can tell when somebody's sick. You can do that. So there's like there's those different levels of knowledge then, right? Is what I'm saying. So like the knowledge, the clue, what I know in front of me, this laptop, I'm looking at the screen, I'm being recorded. I assume it's going out to Twitch. I kind of proved it by looking on my phone to make sure it was on, right? It's like I know that there's a stream, and I know that I caught the stream. Um, I know I've got a headset on, right? I mean, these are things I know. But do I know if that guy is real in the poster? No, I don't know if he's real. Actually, if you look it up and look up articles, it says unidentified male. He's probably AI made or whatever. I don't know. I don't know those things. Anyway, but it's just your family. Let's start with that. Like I know my wife, I know my kids, and I love them very much, and I know, but I don't can't say I know what they're thinking all the time. I can't say I know how they feel all the time, but I can kind of get that sense data because I know them and I'm around them all the time, right? But what you kind of notice with families, right? You notice that the farther out in the families you get, like sometimes there's the more drama there is, and more drama circles, right? So you'll have people like think about like the really bad situations where there's real bad trauma, like you know years later you'll be like, oh man, that's my favorite cousin or whatever. That's the coolest cousin ever, and then they'll go, yeah, that cousin when they were 3 years old, they or no, 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 I won't do it. They're innocent. Let's say, oh yeah, when they're 17, they shot up a grocery store, a store clerk or whatever, and um, we just kept it quiet for the family, and you're like, what? And there's all these things you suddenly know. I mean, that's not real. I've just heard, I just made up a story, but I mean, I do have some stories I just wouldn't share because it's personal and I don't get in trouble. But you know things about your family suddenly that you didn't know before, and your whole worldview should get blown up by that, right? Especially the piece that is with that person. So you're like, oh, that guy's all best cousin ever, dude, so cool. Oh man, I wanna talk to that guy next week. You might change your mind about wanting to talk to him the next week because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a real strong stance against murderers and people that just shoot up places. So I don't think I'll be talking to that cousin a lot. Or the next time, I'll bring it up in a safe space and ask them about what the hell they were doing, and then it's just interesting the world the way it is, but the knowledge thing, it's hard to explain, but I think you get it. But let's really get wrapping this up. Okay, so I did bring up. Let me pop this screen up. Let's put this guy away for a minute, okay? Put this guy down here. You own nothing. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of hide myself as well a little bit because I think this is more important to like look at. Um, what I'm showing you here is has um, NASA has, even on their website, let's talk about clouds. Okay. So if I asked you right now, what are clouds made of or whatever, um, how are clouds made, right? I think I would almost say 100% of people would remember, oh yeah, it's condensation. It goes in the air, it collects in the air, and then it comes back down. Okay, now that's the simplest form, right? Now, um, I already kind of know that there's more to it than that. So what I did anyway, though, is I went through and I was checking all my all these videos. I just went and like the other night, I just watched cloud videos. How are clouds made? How are clouds made? Now so here's the thing about knowledge. Okay, there's this much story. You see my hands here? All right, all right, there's this much. Well, actually, we don't even know the end of it. Okay, this is my hand where it starts. Okay, we'll say there's this much going on with clouds, and we know like this much. But you're led to believe that we know everything about it, right? We know everything about clouds, and that's the problem. So the problem with this knowledge that I'm talking about is that is that everybody will regurgitate the knowledge too, right? So so go look up how are clouds made on YouTube. You'll find little videos for kids. They're about 2 minutes long, right? You're like, oh, just 2 minutes, right? Because we don't know how it works. Yeah, little graphics. Ooh, but what you'll see is like one video will show what I said the first time: evaporation, collection, right? Another one will show uh, evaporation, collection, and then also a collection from like the mountains as the wind knocks up, so it's higher up and blah blah. And they'll talk about altitudes and how clouds are affected by where they're at on sides of mountains and things like that, right? So then you get the it's raining again anyway in the end, whatever. And then you just but they just keep on talking about more of these like scientific understandings where they're like, hey, this is how it is, and then you'll start getting into videos where people so anyway, I'm saying they get more and more in depth, right? Like how clouds are made. And then a lot of them will be but they're very definitive. This is the problem. This is what I'm saying. This is the knowledge issue that we face today with everything. It's changing language, with changing definitions, with changing it's like we can't even have good conversations with people. Let me make sure I get that out. Yeah, and I should have said this earlier. But in order to have a really good conversation with people, we have to have the same level of knowledge about things. We have to be on the same level. So you could debate people to learn more, right? Like that's a way to learn more. But it's like you can't you can't assume anymore. Like I don't know if you ever could have before in the past, but in today's age, you cannot assume that you know anything. Okay, it's sanity. What's going on here? But anyway, you eventually get to it. Then you can watch a bunch of really cool science experiments where they say we're gonna make a cloud, right? Or one guy like was doing skydiving or parasailing, and he like grabbed a piece of a cloud in a plastic bag. And, and then even then, I was being real critical about it because he's like coming down on his parasail and he's got that bag closed with his hand. I'm like, you're up super high with pressures. I'm sure that wind has gone in and out of that bag. I don't care how hard you tight you held it, whatever. Anyway, but okay. But anyway, yeah, so then he shows his example and um there's people that are like, we're gonna make a cloud and it's like nitrogen and all this stuff and they kinda and they show you and it makes sense. Okay, I'm not debating like that those aren't examples of how clouds are made or ways that clouds could be made. Fine, all that's fine. The problem is that there's more to it than that. And here you'll see, and I know, let's talk. It goes, I can read it real quick. Clouds are created when water vapor, an invisible gas, turns into liquid water droplets. These water droplets form on tiny particles like dust that are floating in the air, and then that allows them to have a surface to collect on, right? Then they collect on, there's a lot, that's my cliff notes, sorry. But they collect on those pieces of dust in the air, and then they get bigger and bigger, and then they float there. And they say they don't. That's the part where I know there's more to it. I know there's more to it, just from trying to get more knowledge over the years. But now I can't find it. It's really hard to find it. But anyway, there's diagrams like water vapor goes up. There it is. Gets on a cloud dust. Gets up, and that's your clouds. Yeah, the water's like separated, right? Okay. Oh, it says we usually think of clouds being up in the sky when conditions are right. They can be on the ground and make it fog. Yep, there's a picture of fog. Okay, here's where NASA admits it. Okay, so I'm glad that they admit it. All right, a lot of people give NASA shit, but this is what I like here. This, although the basic idea of cloud formation is easy to understand, there's much more to learn. Peek, peek beneath the cloud's fluffy exterior, and you'll find a world of complexity. In fact, clouds are considered one of the most challenging aspects of climate science. Oh, did you learn about that in school? Yeah. We'll talk about why. Okay, that's because truly understanding clouds requires a deep understanding of the entire atmosphere. Scientists are working to increase their understanding with the help of, and they've got a bunch of satellites, right? They've got the Terra, the Aqua, the Aura, the Calypso, the CloudStat, and there's like these satellites called the A Train. And I just had to look up just how I know the A Train. Yeah, anyway, these satellites that track each other, and it's all for clouds. Okay, all for climate stuff. There's one that's like cloud data, right? And I was trying to collect it and look at it on a map with a program myself. But you can actually go in here and look at this if you want. I think it's actually kind of cool. I question satellites sometimes, and I think that uh, this having some data is is a pretty good way to check that out. Okay, like look into it. But anyway, so NASA admits it, but where do they admit it at? Climate Kids. Okay, so I've looked up another one. Okay, but then you can look at these people. How do clouds form? I just chose some random people. It's called Future Learning. Trust me, they're not they're not much different. So if you're judging me and you're like, Greg, you're finding some real crappy, sources. It's like, oh yeah, try to beat this. Okay, they're all the same. The warmer the air is, the more water vapor it can hold. Clouds are usually produced through condensation. As the air rises, it cools, and then it reduces the temperature of the air. Okay. And reducing the temperature of the air decreases its ability to hold water vapor, so that condensation occurs. The height at which the dew point is reached and clouds form is called the condensation level. So this is where they get real deep into a little bit more of the science, right? But the problem is, and here, let's listen to me now. A huge debate that's out there is gravity. Okay, when it comes to conspiracy theorists, right? So take all this into account, everything you just thought in your mind as you're listening to me say this, and you're thinking, yeah, that makes sense. It floats up there. What keeps it up there? Okay. What That's the question at hand. What keeps the cloud floating in the sky for hours and hours and hours until it finally releases the rain and drops, right? And then some people are like, oh, it's not heavy enough. Well, in this video, and hold on, is this the transcript? How big do they say this is? I don't want to play too much of it. Let me see. Oh, I won't even show it unless I play a little bit. It says that the clouds can weigh up to 100 tons or 100 elephants worth of tons. I'm trying to find this transcript real quick. Yeah, no, we're not gonna get it right here. But it's not the first video I've seen to say that. And then, so even then, I want to throw up my hand and say, well, gravity, right? Like, what are we doing? How does this work? And that's basically where we go to, because even if they make up a bunch of stuff about anything else, um, the key thing you should ask is how that weight stays there, right? It doesn't fall down. So then that has to do with them. But see, okay, now I'm going to take a scientific stance because I know the answer to this, which is not a real answer. It's another theory because no one is studying this. It's like we gave up on this stuff, and yet they're sitting there. It's like this is what I'm saying. The knowledge part of it. Okay, I've looked this up, and if you the only way to find the answer to this actually go and look up something called the fourth stage of water. So let's do this right now. Let's do the fourth. Oh, sorry, I'm not used to this keyword. The fourth stage of water. Yeah. So you thought water only had three phases, but it's got one which is also called the exclusion zone or the easy water. Um, and then this water is like sticky, like it sticks together more. They can sometimes find molecules of it where it's like, is it H3O2 instead of H2O? Um, this is the water where you saw the experiment. Let's see if there's images here. You've probably seen the experiment where they make a bridge out of the water. Let's look up the water bridge. I'm really surprised I can't find it. Well, here's part of it too. You see this picture here? They put this tube in, oh shoot, in easy water, and it makes water flow infinitely for free, um, like an energy source possibility. Oh, where's the beakers at? Yeah, let's look this up. I know this is a little dirty. I think fourth water bridge. Ah, it's too clean. Anyway, there's a scientific experiment where they take two beakers In between the beakers, there's water. It's in that fourth phase. Um, there you see it, gel-like. Let's see. What is the beaker thing? Anyway, I should have had this better prepped. I thought about it earlier, but didn't think I'd get to this point. Anyway, yeah, if you go look up the four phases of water, you find some YouTube videos on it, watch that. And the YouTube videos are usually clips of, um, they're usually clips of old videos from the past that people just like took and then they might voice, they're sharing the free content or whatever around. Um, and That's the answer. That's what they're saying this is. Is this why clouds stay up? Is this why they're connected? So if you watch the video on fourth stage of water, they will say, oh, that makes sense with clouds. And also makes sense with clouds because this water holds an electric charge, right? And then the earth charge. So then you think, oh my gosh, well, is that why lightning happens, right? Because you got the cloud up there, and the cloud has that water in that easy zone, the easy water, the gel-like water, and then that's what's causing the discharge between it because it wants the charge and it gets it from the earth and it charges it up, right? Um, and then also that creates a resonance field around the earth called the Schumann resonance or the Schumann frequency, Schumann. And you can look that up, and that frequency is like this natural healing resonance that bounces around the entire planet's um, its uh, stratosphere. I suppose I'll use that word, but yeah, it bounces around, and like there's just so much things that happen here, and we don't even care. Okay, that's why conspiracies happen and things. Anyway, I go so deep with it. I'm trying to stop myself. Sorry if I'm fumbling a little bit here, stumbling, but they basically that's what I'm talking about. So you can say you knew all about clouds up to this point, but if you didn't know about the four stages of water, you just learned something. The fourth stage of water, sorry, you've just learned something, right? You've learned that there's a gap in knowledge. Why do the clouds stay up? Why do they stay together? Why do clouds not always combine? Okay, there's just there's just a lot of questions. And I was watching a video I finally got, and I wish I remembered the link, and it's not ready now, but did find a guy who was very, very into clouds, and his video was very, very good. I'm gonna have to try to link it, and I should have maybe commented over it. But even he gets to the end where he gives you all his data about clouds. He talks about like just crazy amounts of stuff, and that's all real. People, they're like firsthand accounts of things. People wrote books about it. People have like videos of clouds, and you know, I know that's like outside knowledge, right? That's further out from me, like way far out. But, um, but I would say that there's no reason for me to doubt it, except that I know that there's more to it. And then there's people don't talk about it. But this guy at the end of his video, he does say, "Oh yeah, and clouds are so much more complex. We've yet to find out about it." And I'm like, okay, so like, why do people act like it's finite science, right? Like it's over, and there's no need to look at clouds ever again. And then, oh, and I was gonna say, even in the videos where you see people say, "Hey, yeah, let's make a cloud," and they'll get all these, they get nitrogen and stuff, and they'll do all these different kind of clouds, these different ways to make a white puff of condensation, what would you call crystallized water vapor in the air. Just different. It's different based on chemicals, right? But they're doing all these things, but it always falls immediately, right? It doesn't go up and go, oh yeah, it's just gonna float around and stay in there. So that's what I think they're missing. Yeah, there's definitely a point to that. So anyway, so there's more information here, and so really, I guess if your feedback for this video is going to be something like, um, you know, it doesn't matter that I don't have knowledge or something. I'm not really sure how to help you on that, except to say that you're probably brainwashed, man. You gotta like I want everybody to really think about what you know and what you don't know. Okay. And I saw a viral video, and I think it's like on TikTok going around. But it's a clip of a clip of a clip of a guy that was like going around, and he's old, really old dude on the street, and like probably looked like New York, something. And he's like, you don't know these things, but you believe these things. So he's making a distinction between what you know and what you believe. Now I'm not going that far because I think there are ways of knowing things, like I said, through perception, through knowledge, but like you really can't know anything else. That's why when people say like maybe this is a simulation, you get into simulation theory. Maybe if people say um, it could be one big shared dream experience or something. But people say all these things, and I like to entertain those ideas a lot, and I like to hear people out when they talk about it because I'm like, I don't know that it's not. I don't know that it's not because I'm a smart guy too, I think. And if I was going to make a simulation, I'd make it as real as you could possibly believe as well, right? Why leave anything to chance that somebody would figure out that it was fake? And then how would they know it was fake if all you knew was the simulation from day one? How would you even break out of something that you are completely locked in on? And they have videos of fleas that jump in the jar. Now I'm just getting crazy. Uh, Fleas trained in a jar. Yeah, there's a video of these fleas. They're trained in a jar, and they'll only jump the height of the jar.
My life is essentially being on tour.
And then
How do I have tools that
you should.
can leverage myself where there can be more of me getting stuff cleared in the queue as quickly as possible? We need something that transcends.
Oh, I don't want to do that. I shouldn't be
Training
watching.
fleas requires a glass jar with a lid.
Checks out.
The
You hear
fleas are
that?
placed inside the jar, and the lid is then sealed.
Fleas in the jar, the lid sealed.
They are left undisturbed for 3 days.
Leave them there for 3 days.
Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out.
They open the jar, the fleas won't jump out.
In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid.
They'll never jump higher than the level that was set by
Their
the lid.
behavior is now set for the rest of their lives.
And there they are when they remove them from the jar. Their behavior is going to be like that for the rest of their lives.
And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
Their offspring will automatically follow the exact same rules. Wow. And then this guy says, escape the circus and live beyond the limits of the imaginary lid. Okay, yeah. So when we talk about these things, we're getting real deep here about knowledge. So when we talk about really that, I mean, that just made me kind of open my eyes a little bit there. I think I got my message across here though. Okay, so I need to end this video before it gets too insanely long. We're almost an hour here. So yeah, hey, come back with some more things like this. If you do like this video, please give me feedback on it at any point, and I'm going to answer as many comments as I can. And for now, it's a small channel, so I'm guaranteed to answer your comments as they fly in. And if you want to be on these with me, um, I would love to have chats with people, and you don't have to be famous, right? Because I'm surely not either. But I think it could be good content, or at least just two people to, or a few more to have a really good chat about some things. Um, but let's talk about things like this, and we need to in the world today, because we need to have all these kids who are lost. There's a lot of depression going around, and I think this really has a lot to do with like knowing yourself, knowing the world around you. What can you trust? Who can you trust? How do you determine what to trust? I mean, I can get into so much about that with the whole knowing thing. And then I think, like I said at the very beginning, I said, what is the truth? Okay. And that can be really rough to understand what the truth is. And then a lot of people will question, well, why are you like, let's say you're getting real mad about a certain topic. They're like, what does it matter to you? And you're like, I want the truth. And they're like, why does that matter? But no, there's nothing else that matters but the truth. Literally nothing matters but the truth. Okay, um, and that's the truth. So anyway, I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. This will be available. Like it's available on. I think Twitch will keep it up, but I'm put on YouTube, of course. And if you watch on YouTube, subscribe, and then I'll do some YouTube lives as well. I guess I can go live on both at the same time, but I figured I'd just start out simple while I'm trying to get my audio correct, and uh, I'll watch it back myself and make sure everything's cool too. So anyway, yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks.